In this video, I'm going to look at doing the purl stitch. Hopefully you've already looked at the knit stitch video. This one's going to be purl. I've already cast on 20 stitches using the thumb method, which again is in one of my other videos. So I'm ready to start with my purl. I've got all of my stitches so far, my cast on stitches on my left hand needle because I'm right handed. I'm going to move them over to the right hand needle. So with this one, we need to have the yarn in front of our right hand needle, okay? So yarn in front, and our tip of our right hand needle is going to go into the stitch from underneath. So I'm only going through the front loop. I know it looks a bit like I'm stabbing in the back, okay? But I'm going to go under that loop there, okay? And then I wrap around from right to left. I go under the first stitch and then I slide it off. So I go into the stitch from here. I wrap my yarn around right to left. I take my needle under and I slide off. If you've done the knit stitch, the last two steps are the same. It's the first two that are different because my yarn is at the front. So I'm going under my stitch. I'm wrapping around in the other direction, but then I'm still going under and taking it off. Okay, so under here. Now again, it's a little bit tricky doing this from this cast on. Okay, and quite often doing the first row from the cast on, trying to get your needle into the stitch can be a bit fiddly. So bear with it, because once you've got the first row done, it's a lot easier. So I'm going in to my stitch. Now you can just see there, I've just split the yarn. I'm just going to try that again. I don't want to, there we go, got all the strands now. Around from right to left, underneath and slide off into the stitch, wrap it around, underneath and slide off. So the direction you wrap the yarn is important, and this is different to our knit stitch. So please make sure we get it the right way round. So in, wrap it around, underneath and off. Okay, so in, again, I can just split my yarn a bit, wrap it around, underneath and off. So into your stitch, wrap it around, underneath and off. Now I'm just going to speed up a little bit for the rest of this row. Don't worry, I'm going to do a couple more rows yet, just so that I can show you that it is actually a lot easier on the next row. Okay. Sorry, I've gone a bit quiet there, I was concentrating. All right, now here, it just fell off. All right, that's a bit of a problem, but all I'm going to do is I'm going to put my left hand needle into the stitch and slide it back over, okay? I can fix that dead easy, and then I can carry on with what I was doing, which was round, under and off. Now that's because I'm using metal needles and acrylic yarn, and sometimes your needles get a bit slippy. I will do a separate video on different types of needles and their pros and cons. Okay, so that's my last stitch, round, under and off. So as with my knitting stitch, I now need to change my needles over. Okay, so these are now on my left hand side. I've got my empty needle on the right. So the thing to remember before you do your first stitch is you must have the yarn in front of your empty needle. Okay, so your yarn is over the top, and then we're going into that first stitch, wrapping around, underneath and sliding off. Okay, in, around, under and off. In, around, under and off. In, round, under, off. Okay, just going to keep going like that. So going in, wrapping around. Remember, we're wrapping from right to left, and we're coming at the stitch from a different angle than when we do a knit stitch. So every time, exactly the same thing, which does actually really help. It seems a little bit monotonous, but when you're trying to learn something, doing the same thing over and over again is actually the best way to learn it. So that's one of the advantages of learning to do this. What I would say is if you're starting off by just making a square or something, don't make your number of cast on stitches too high. I did 20. I wouldn't go any higher than that because A, the first row is the trickiest, but also it won't build very fast and it will feel like it's taking an eternity. If all you're going to do is make a rectangle and then undo it when you've had enough practice, 10 stitches is probably enough to cast on. Okay, so I'm going in, wrapping around, underneath and off, in, around, underneath and off, in, around, underneath and off, in, around, underneath and off. Last stitch, in. Be careful you don't twist the last stitch, sometimes happens. Okay, so if I lay this flat now, if you've done the knitting, you'll see it looks exactly the same. Okay, and again, it's double-sided. So if you just do purl or you just do knit, they look exactly the same. It's only when we start to combine them that we get different fabrics. Again, that's one for another video. But yeah, so here we are. I've done my second row of purl. So as with the knitting one, a very common mistake is if you put your yarn to the back, I get those loops looking like stitches. Okay, so the most important thing to remember with purl is the yarn is always at the front and it is always in front of the needle that you're going onto. Once you've done the first stitch, your yarn's going to be in the right place, so that's not a problem. But we've got to make sure when we do that first one that the yarn is on top here. So in again, wrapping around the top from right to left, underneath and slide off. Okay, just caught my thumb on the camera there. All right, so in, wrap it round, underneath, slide it off. In, around, underneath and slide it off. So look, again, it's not massively different to the knit stitch. The biggest things are where your yarn is and how your needle's going in. So your needle's going in from this side rather than that way on a knit stitch. So we're going in from this side and our yarn is wrapping that way round instead of left to right. And obviously the needle that we're going onto is on the top here rather than on the bottom. So again, from here, all you need to do is keep practicing until you're confident with the stitch. Once you are confident with the knit stitch and the purl stitch, take a look at some of the other videos and you will be able to start doing different things. Okay, so we can combine knitting and purling to do what we call stocking stitch, which most knitted jumpers, even like machine knitted jumpers, are stocking stitch. We can learn how to do ribbing, which is what we use for cuffs and often the hems of jumpers. So again, if you've got even a shop bought cardigan in your cupboard, you'll be able to see rib stitch and stocking stitch on there. And oops, so again, I've dropped it, it's come off. Luckily, it's not just disappeared into nowhere, it's on my other hook. So if I put my needle back in, it's actually the right position there, okay? So I can wrap around, under and off. All right, so mistakes do happen. Okay, the most important trick with knitting is if you make a mistake, don't panic, don't pull. Okay, if you start pulling your needles apart to look at what's happened, things start to unravel, more stitches fall off. So keep your needles close and see if you can figure out what to do from there. Okay, worst case scenario is we have to start again. But again, I will do another video showing you how to unpick mistakes when we've got through some more of the basics. Okay, so like I say, it looks exactly, this is still garter stitch, it's because it's the same on every row, and knit and purl kind of opposites of each other, but you now have enough to go away and practice.